All right. My name is Blake, and today I'm going to talk about Blitz Wallet. So you sort of just learned about some wallet architecture and how to build a liquid wallet. And this is going to be a case study on actually using liquid in the real world. So I have been developing this self-custodial liquid lightning and Ecash wallet for the past year. And I really started to use the Liquid network to help elevate the payment experience for the users. And so that is sort of one part of this presentation. And then another part of this presentation that I want to highlight as I'm in a room with all sort of developers is our duty sort of to design our solutions for users, not just to create the coolest technical project that you can. Because ultimately, a technology is only useful if someone can use it, right? And so if you just create something for technology's sake and nobody can actually use it, it really doesn't empower anyone to actually be using your technology. And I want to start out by giving a little context to who I am. Most of you probably have no idea who I am. I'm not a super popular person. And so here is just some fun things about me. I've been in Bitcoin for around 5 years now. And in case you're wondering, I'm 21 years old. So I got into Bitcoin around 16 years old, which was interesting because I didn't have to break down any sort of biases that I had about the world. I really just saw Bitcoin as this really cool technology that could empower people around the world. And in my time in Bitcoin, I did some cool things, but the one thing that people always love is that I ran a S9 Bitcoin miner in my college dorm room for 2 years. I would not recommend it. It's very stressful. Anytime somebody walks down the hallway, you're like, oh my gosh, they're gonna get me this time, you know? But the first year I ran it, I paid my entrance fee into El Salvador with the sats that it generated from my miner. And the second year, I was actually a resident assistant. So what that means is you're sort of the student leader on your dorm floor to enforce the rules. But I was actually running a Bitcoin miner, which wasn't within the rules. It was kind of breaking it. So I had to conduct sort of all my meetings outside of my room to make sure I didn't bring any suspicion to sort of what I was doing within my dorm room. Now, the bottom two are the most important parts of what I want you to know about me. And the first is that I'm fully self-taught as a developer. I actually went to school for marketing with a minor in information technology and taught myself how to code outside of school. And that really allowed me to sort of think about a product and think about what I'm doing from the sense of really trying to target my user, right? So when I'm trying to make technical decisions, I'm not making technical decisions from the sort of maybe developer mindset of this is something cool. I'm saying, okay, this is how I'm going to make my user have a better experience, and I'm going to go about that in a technical way. And then the second thing is I'm extremely passionate about making Bitcoin usable. And usable to me means that you or I can send payments to one another instantly. If I'm in America, you're not, it doesn't matter. Or I can go to the store and I can spend my Bitcoin at the store. Because to me, the use case of Bitcoin is in its use as a currency, it's in its use as actually spending between people. So that's just a little bit about me. And I'm going to start this presentation talking about the way in which I make decisions for myself and for Blitz Wallet. But I think this is extremely important for everyone in this room. If you have a project, you have a product idea, whatever it may be, to have a thought model of how are you going to get to where you want to be in the future, and how are you going to make your product into what you want it to be. And so here is how I sort of think about a new feature. It could be maybe upgrading a style, and it was even in the development of my wallet itself. So I start with who is my user? Who am I actively trying to service in this need? And as a Bitcoin wallet, who do you think is my user? Does anyone have an idea of who my user might be? You can just shout it out if you're a Bitcoin wallet. Anyone have any ideas? Great idea, a Bitcoiner, right? That would be the simplest idea and probably the one that jumps right out of your mind. And that was my first idea, but The problem with Bitcoiners and people who are interested in Bitcoin is that they are technically minded, right? They like technology, and usually they have more technical expertise than the average person. And so if I make my user, my target user, a Bitcoiner, and I design my solution to the technical expertise of a Bitcoiner, well, then anyone below the technical expertise of a Bitcoiner really can't use my wallet because it's hard to go up in the level. It's hard to go up in technical expertise. It's really easy to go down. So if I develop my app not for Bitcoiners, but for an average person who has no idea what Bitcoin's for, Bitcoiners can still use the wallet because you can always go down in technical expertise, but the average people can also use my wallet. Whereas if I just did Bitcoiners, the average people couldn't because it would be too technical. And so that was really the foundational shift in my mind is I'm making a Bitcoin wallet that can be used for Bitcoiners, but it's not necessarily designed for Bitcoiners. And that allows it to be more inclusive to everyone. So the second thing that I think about is, okay, I have my user, I have what I'm designing. Where do I want to go in the future? What do I want this product to be? And for me, I want to design the simplest self-custodial wallet out there. A wallet where it doesn't matter if you know what Bitcoin is, doesn't matter if you know how to even use your phone. All you see is a couple buttons and you can easily send and receive payments over the Bitcoin network. So then I have my user, I have where I want to go. The next question is, can it be done? So I am fully solo building this entire app. And because I have only a finite amount of time, I really need to be strategic with what I do, right? And so if a feature may be great for the user and it may get me closer to my envisioned future, but it takes up so much time that I could actually be devoting to something else, well, then that might not be something that I should pursue in the current moment, right? Because if something takes up a lot of time and say gives my users 2 extra user experience points, but I could do 5 other things that gives my users 3 extra user experience points. Well, if I do the first one, I actually lost 1 user experience point. So I really have to be strategic with, can I actually do what might need to be done? And the last one is, does it actually improve the application? As a developer, I love creating new things, and I'm sure everyone in this room also loves to just create new things. But sometimes just because you can create something doesn't mean you actually need to create that thing. And so really being, again, strategic with how can we best improve the user experience is crucial when designing a Bitcoin product, especially in today's day. But now you might be wondering, okay, so we now know how you think, we sort of know who you are. Why would you even start designing a Bitcoin wallet, right? There are tons of Bitcoin wallets out there. I'm sure many of you have them on your phones. So where is the niche, right? As the marketer you know I am, where am I thinking the opportunity is? And so here is sort of the current landscape in the wallet sort of world that you can see. So on the left-hand side, we have custodial and low permissionless. So custodial means that the developing organization, the company, they hold your funds and then they could take your funds if they wanted to. And permissionless means, can you spend, can you use your money without anybody else telling you what to do, right? So if you're using a custodial wallet, like Wallet of Satoshi, Strike, or Blink, and they hold your funds, well, not only can they take your funds, well, you have to also get their permission to spend your funds as well. On the opposite side of the spectrum, you have self-custodial and high permissionless. Those are basically bare bones Lightning wallets where you open channels yourself. That means that you have full self-custody over your wallet, over your funds, and also it's really highly permissionless because you have a unilateral exit in Lightning. Now, when I started developing Blitz Wallet, those were really the only 2 options. But then this new nodeless infrastructure came in, what is like what Aqua does, which is self-custodial, right? Because Blockstream can't come in and take your funds on the Liquid network. However, it's not fully permissionless because, as we know, in order to peg out of the Liquid network, you need permission from the Federation, right? And so it's self-custodial, but it's not 100% permissionless. So that's why you can't sort of lump that into the same category as the full Lightning wallets themselves. So that is sort of the environment that I saw. So my observation was, how do we move users from custodial solutions to self-custodial solutions, right? Everybody wants custody over their money. Everybody doesn't want permission to spend their money. But the problem is that's a hard transition. And it's a hard transition for a couple reasons. The first one is that self-custodial Lightning is extremely complex, especially in a mobile environment, and especially for people who have never understood or looked into Bitcoin, right? The whole idea of channels, inbound liquidity, it has to be online, sort of how payments route through the network is extremely complex and leads to a lot of confusion for users in the beginning when they're trying to learn about Lightning. And so as you try and transition from a custodial solution to a self-custodial solution, they run into a lot of questions and it just becomes extremely complex for them to understand. And most likely they're not going to take the time to learn it and they just won't use those self-custodial solutions. The next problem is people do not like decreasing their user experience. I think everyone knows when like your phone updates and they change something and you get confused and you get all mad, you go onto Twitter and then you tweet at whatever the company is. You're like, why'd you change this, right? Nobody likes decreasing the user experience. However, going from the custodial solutions, going from the fiat world into Bitcoin, into self-custodial Bitcoin, is a huge change and generally comes with a decrease in user experience. And so that is a super hard transition for users to make. And it's something that I was thinking about, how can I ease that transition? And the last one is there is sort of low user choice, right? You either have your custodial wallet, you either have your Aqua wallet, which is semi, and then you either have a fully self-custodial wallet, but you don't really have a user choice within any one wallet in order to choose, well, which solution works best for you. Because maybe not everybody wants self-custodial Lightning. Maybe somebody wants the middle ground, right? So there isn't too much user choice. So what I came up with is Blitz Wallet. So Blitz Wallet is a self-custodial wallet, but there are custodial parts to it in order to ease that user experience. So basically, it combines all three of these architecture types into a singular wallet so that a user can move up this sort of self-custodial spectrum within one user interface, right? So right now, if you onboard someone to a wallet of Satoshi, but then they want to get into self-custodial Lightning, what do they have to do? Well, then they have to go download a Phoenix, a Zeus, a Mana Breeze, or a Green app, and they have to learn a whole new application in order to do it. But with Blitz Wallet, it will just gradually move you up this spectrum, so you only have to learn one user interface. So, what is Blitz Wallet? Well, as I said, it's a self-custodial Bitcoin Lightning, Liquid, and Ecash wallet harnessing the power of Boltz, Blockstream, and Breeze. So self-custodial, as we know, nobody can take your funds, but that only applies to Lightning and Liquid. Ecash is fully custodial, and I'll explain where that part comes in just a little bit. And then Boltz is what Michael talked about before. They are the swap providers between the networks. Blockstream helps with the Liquid network and also the Lightning node, which is Greenlight. And then Breeze is the SDK portion of the wallet. So they are the ones who provide that Lightning connection and the ability to use the Liquid network. Breeze actually uses the LWK, which they just talked about, in case you're wondering. So how does Blitz Wallet work? Or here's sort of the technology behind it, and then I'll get into the architecture of how payments actually work. So I built this in React Native. And the reason that I use React Native is I came from a web development background where JavaScript is all you use, and React Native allows you to use JavaScript as the main programming language. It is also cross-platform. So you build in JavaScript, but it compiles down to iOS and Android apps, which means you only have to build it once, which saves me a ton of time. As I said, since I'm solo building this, it allows me to just build it once, and then it compiles down to both frameworks, or into both languages. And then lastly, there are tons of great frameworks. So Expo is a great framework that has a lot of packages, but the whole React Native environment has a lot of opportunities to create sort of unique packages in your application. So the second technology is the Breeze SDK. They provide the ability to use the Lightning Network, and they have a built-in LSP, which is a liquidity provider, a Lightning liquidity provider, which basically reduces the chance that your payments will fail because it's going from a well-connected node on the network. The Breed Liquid SDK is the next technology. They are the ones who provide the opportunity to use the Liquid network. I actually used the React Native LWK in my application. However, doing bolt swaps within a React Native environment is extremely wonky. And so the error handling using the Breeze SDK is a lot better. So again, when I'm looking at how can I create the best user experience, it was a clear choice to switch over to a more robust error handling, just so that users don't ever have a chance of losing funds. I use Firebase as a backend server. I'll talk a little bit about the features that come with Blitz Wallet, and that is needed to store sort of information that you do. It's nothing personal, but in Blitz Wallet, for example, you can use ChatGPT. So if you want to save your ChatGPT queries, you will just store that in Firebase under a pseudo account. There are no names that you have to use in order to log into Blitz Wallet. Bolts, as I talked about, they're the swap people. And then Cashew allows micropayments when you do not have a Lightning channel open. Again, I'll get to that, but that is Ecash, and this is fully custodial. So don't make the idea that I'm saying Cashew is not fully custodial. So here is how it works. There's a lot of lines, a lot of colors, a lot of boxes. It's a little bit confusing, I'm not going to lie. It took a little bit to think about. But yeah, so this is how it works. As we can see, there's sort of on the right-hand side, if you're looking at the screen, there's three main networks you can interact with. There's the Bitcoin network, the Lightning network, and then the Liquid network. In the middle, we see bolts. They are the ones connecting your sort of where your balances can be stored to those different types of networks. And then where you actually can hold balances within Blitz Wallet is the Lightning network, Liquid network, and Cashew. But Cashew is technically the Lightning network, but I wanted to split it up in order to give a more easy visual on how this actually works. But I'm going to break it up into the different types of chains you can interact with because it makes it a little bit easier to think about. So this is how an on-chain payment would work. So if you hold a balance in Lightning, which means you opened up a Lightning channel, and you want to send a Bitcoin payment, you would basically do a reverse swap out of Lightning through bolts to send to Bitcoin. If you want to send from the Liquid network to the Bitcoin network, you would do a chain swap through bolts, and you would receive your funds on the Bitcoin network. Now, you can only ever receive to Liquid from the Bitcoin network. And the reason is you don't ever want to have to force open a channel for a user, right? So if you just receive the Liquid network, no force channel will open, and then they won't have to incur like a huge channel open cost that they won't know about. And that would just be confusing for the user. Now, does anyone have any theories as to why I didn't build a native Bitcoin wallet into Blitz Wallet? Like, you could use the Bitcoin development kit, you could use Bitcoin.js, I could do it, but do you have any ideas on why I wouldn't do it? Thinking about being very user-focused, thinking about simplicity. Does anyone have any ideas? It would be cool if you could get this. Like, why I didn't create a fully Bitcoin wallet, like a native Bitcoin wallet. Like, why aren't users' funds on-chain in UTXOs? So, potentially expensive. Close. Yes. So one thing that I have observed when people have the option to put funds on chain is that they will do sort of a lot of mini transactions once they think they have enough funds to go on chain. Now, this totally makes sense, right? Sometimes it's labeled as a savings account, and in traditional banking, right, you just transfer small amounts to your savings account every once in a while when you think that you have enough to cover your expenses in your checking account. Now, the problem with that is that if you do a bunch of small amounts on the base chain, you will gather a bunch of unspent transaction outputs, UTXOs. So what Micah was talking about in the beginning, when you then go to send a payment, you would have to take all of those inputs and then consolidate them into one output if you're going to send. That means that you are basically using a lot of data on chain. If your transaction is more data in a finite amount of block space, you're going to have to pay more for that transaction. And so if I'm a user and I don't know anything about Bitcoin, and I don't know anything about UTXO management, and I'm just sending some small amounts to the base chain every once in a while because it's labeled as a savings account, and then I go to send sometime in the future and I'm hit with a gigantic fee, I'm going to be extremely confused about what just happened, right? And so that is why I didn't put a native Bitcoin wallet inside of Blitz Wallet. You don't have to manage UTXOs. Also, if on-chain fees spike, users' funds are not locked in a UTXO that can't be spent, right? Because none of the funds are actually on chain. So another positive, if on-chain fees randomly go up, like they mine a bunch of ordinals or whatever, you can still use your funds however you would like, and they're not actually locked in a wallet that can't be spent on chain. Now, obviously, the downside to this is you don't have any UTXOs on the base chain, and the base chain is the most permissionless, the most decentralized, right? But I had to sacrifice that for the user experience gain that they would get by using this sort of architecture to send on-chain payments. So the next one is how Liquid works. And Liquid is sort of the backbone to my wallet. It allows basically the main functionality, which is contacts, to work. And so if a user has funds on Lightning, they would do a Bolt swap to Liquid. If they have funds on Liquid, they would just send a normal Liquid payment. And then if you're going to receive from Liquid, you would just obviously receive to a Liquid address. And then you would actually never go from Liquid to Lightning. Again, you don't want to ever have a chance of opening a channel. And so the reason Liquid is also, as I mentioned, the backbone to how Blitz Wallet works is due to Liquid's offline capabilities and reusable addresses, right? So with the Lightning Network, in order to receive a payment, your node has to be online. Now, in a mobile environment right now, my phone, my application is not on. And so how would you receive a payment? So they've sort of gone around this with notifications, but notifications are not 100% reliable. And also your phone might not have cell service or your phone might be dead, right? So there are nuances to when a notification can be sent. And so that creates the possibility of payments to fail. And so again, if I'm thinking for my user and creating the best user experience, if I'm introducing the optionality of a payment to fail, that's not good. And so by using the Liquid network, I know that the payments will always be received because your phone doesn't have to be online in order to receive a payment. And then you also get reusable addresses. So I can send you money to your address like a million times and it doesn't matter. But on the Lightning Network, if you generate a Bolt 11 address, you can only use that once. They've gotten around it with LNURL. But again, your phone would have to be online in order to answer the request that someone is pinging your LNURL address. And then Bolt 12 is sort of getting LNURL into the protocol, but again, you have to be online. And so by using Liquid, you can take that requirement of being online and totally removing it to the side, which is a huge user experience gain. And then the last one is the Lightning Network. So in the beginning, when you open up a Blitz Wallet account, you do not have a channel. And so you are using the swap method, the nodeless architecture, to interact with the Lightning Network. One of the problems that comes along with doing that is you have a minimum swap amount of 1,000 sats. And so you can't use micropayments in a wallet that just uses swaps. And so to get around the fact that you can't use micropayments, I introduced the custodial Ecash feature that users can receive and send amounts below 1,000 sats. And so if you want to go onto Nostr and you want to zap your friend, you can do that in a custodial environment using Ecash. And then if your wallet has a balance of 5,000 sats in Ecash or above, it will swap you into Liquid, moving your funds from that custodial environment to a more self-custodial environment, because again, the goal is to move yourself as far into the self-custodial environment as possible. And then also to get into the Lightning Network, once you have a balance of 500,000 sats or above, the wallet will try and open a channel for you. And so this is really cool because it takes away sort of the economical problem with initially opening a Lightning channel, right? So the whole sort of problem that you run into when onboarding someone to Lightning is the first payment you send them, you try and send them $20, and maybe only 10 goes through because that $10 was the channel open fee or whatever. And that new person is like, well, what do you mean? You just sent me $20, but I only got 10. Where did that 10 go? And then you have to explain channel open fees. And then they're like, what do you mean? There was a 50% tax to open this channel? That doesn't make any sense. I don't like this. And then you're shunned to the corner and you cry that night, right? And so by increasing the limit to swap into Lightning, you make that initial fee a lot more economical. So instead of sending 20 and $10 is taken, if you send $110 taken, well, that's a smaller percentage of the total amount. And so it makes it so it's easier to reconcile in your head that you spent some money to open a channel. And so then this is, how the Lightning Network works on Blitz Wallet. So this is sort of what you would get if you use it. And these are the main selling points that I really focused on when building my wallet, because these were the questions that I was always asked. The first question I'm always asked, because I'm known as the Bitcoin person, is, okay, Blake, I love Bitcoin. Cool. What do I do with it? I bought it and now it just sits there. But what do I actually get with it? And so one of the things that I did is I built an in-app store within Blitz Wallet where you can actually spend your sats. And so some examples are generative AI. So you can use Claude, ChatGPT, Facebook's, and there's one other. So you can pay for those credits and you can use generative AI within your application. Now, that's cool for two reasons. One, you don't have to spend $20 a month in order to use ChatGPT like 2 times. You can just pay for the credits that you want. And then another benefit is it's way more anonymous, right? Because you are using ChatGPT through me, not necessarily through your account that you sign up for, so nothing can be tracked back to you. You can also buy VPNs, send anonymous SMSs, and the best one is the Bitcoin company. So you can buy gift cards to real-world stores that you can actually exchange those gift cards for goods, right? So for the last 6 months, I've been living totally off my wallet in America, buying all my groceries, all my Christmas gifts, everything I want through the app. And that's cool for me because now I can show people that you can get tangible real world value from Bitcoin, which is sort of the largest disconnect that people have because they think, okay, this thing is just digital, but how do I actually get something in the real world with it? Well, I'm showing you. I just bought a gift card and I bought your groceries for you with Bitcoin. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, right? So it's giving users the ability to actually start using Bitcoin. The next thing is contacts. So I sort of thought about this in a way, and I call it the QR code problem. And I think Bitcoin has a QR code problem. And what I mean by that is if I am trying to convey information to you, a payment address, you have to sort of do it in a QR code because they're so long that if I sort of try and text it to someone new, they get really confused because a string of incoherent letters and numbers just is intimidating, right? And so to make it less intimidating, we just put it in QR codes. But that's not the best user experience, especially when you're going from sort of a Venmo or a Cash App where all you see is send and request. And so that is exactly the payment experience that I integrated into Blitz Wallet. You have contacts and all you would see is send and request. And that makes it super simple. And a great example that I like to use is my mom. She Venmo'd all of my brothers for like a holiday gift. But she used Blitz Wallet for me. And she didn't have me as a contact yet. So she went into Blitz Wallet, she looked up my name in the contact system, and she sent me $20. And now my mom's not the most technical person by no means. And so that was really the key to me that said, okay, I'm really getting this down to where I'm hiding everything so much behind the scenes that all they see is send a request, and it makes it easy to use. The next big thing is the custodial ladder, and especially the choice that users have. And so this means that basically you can move, as I mentioned, up into more self-custodial sort of holdings of your fund, more permissionless holding of your fund directly within the app. Now, not everybody wants to have fully self-custodial, fully permissionless money because, again, what comes with that is sort of a decrease in user experience. But the user should be able to choose that for themselves. So some people might use the Know the solution. Some people might use the actual Lightning node solution. But they should be able to choose that, and they should be able to choose that in the same app, in my opinion. And so that is exactly what I built. The next one is you get automatic channel rebalances. So one of the complexities to Lightning is managing how much funds are in your Lightning channel. Because if you don't do that, you're going to run into capacity problems where if you try and receive, you're going to have to open a new channel because you ran out of inbound liquidity. So what Blitz Wallet does is on every time you load the app, if you have a channel, it'll check where is your capacity in your channel. So let's say you want to have 50%. So 50% is inbound capacity, 50% is actually your balance in your channel. But when you load the app, you're at 90%. Well, the app will then take the difference. So 50 and 90, that's 40. So it'll take 40%, right? And it'll swap that automatically into liquid so that when you're in the app, you can then continue to receive, right? It takes away that inbound liquidity problem. And on the flip side, if your channel is low, let's say at 10%, and you have funds in liquid, it will take the liquid funds and swap them into Lightning so that you can utilize the Lightning network to its full potential. And this is exactly how I sort of manage the contacts problem, because contacts go off of the liquid network. And so if you're offline and I send you 20,000 sats over to your contact, well, that will be stored in your liquid balance. But when you load the app, if you have capacity in your channel, it'll automatically be swapped to Lightning. So you won't even know that you used the liquid network if you are using the Lightning network in your app. It'll just all happen behind the scenes, and it makes it super simple. And then the last feature is obviously the Ecash feature. This allows you to have that micropayments in the beginning, which is an issue because 1,000 sats is actually a decent amount of money now that Bitcoin's price has gone up, right? And so as Bitcoin price continues to rise, that 1,000 sat barrier starts to block more and more people out. So giving the ability to, in the beginning, to have micropayments was a huge gain for the user experience. Now, this is a big question. I've had to fight this question a lot with some of the people around me who are sort of working on this project with me. Why liquid, right? Why the liquid network? Now, for me, there were sort of two main choices. There was the liquid network and there was the Fediment. And the reason there were these two is to, again, remove complexity within self-custodial Lightning. So both of these use a federated model, but there is a difference. So with the liquid network, you need 11 of 15, basically the federated members, to validate that peg in, peg out to make it permissionless. Now with Fediment, you have to go out and find people around you to join your federation that you trust. That's their whole model. It's a trust model that if you can find enough people close to you, then most likely they won't take your money because they're close to you. But the problem with that is you're putting the burden on the user. Where is the burden of choice on the user right here? With the Fediment, the user has to go find the people. And for me personally, I don't have a ton of people around me who are technical enough to do a Fediment, or possibly who I trust to not take my money, right? So then what am I left with if I'm in a Fediment environment? Well, I have to go out into the world and find strangers. But that sort of takes the trust model away, because if I'm with a stranger, well, then they're going to take my money, right? But with the liquid network, you have Bitcoin companies, right? So they're with the mindset of you. They have the same ethos for you. And you can trust, generally, that if it's 11 to 15, it's more secure than random people on the internet. So for me, it was a clear choice. Use the liquid network because it takes the burden off of the user. And this was actually something funny that I was scrolling through Twitter after I made this slide. And it was just the largest coincidence ever. And I'll read it. It says, I have apparently been rugged by a Fediment. I still self-custodially hold the Ecash notes, of course, which is a hilarious thing to say. But they can no longer be redeemed for BTC as I'm having trouble getting anyone to accept them. And this was funny because in his federation, it was a 3 of 4 multi-sig. 2 people went offline, which means everyone in that federation or that Fediment was locked. And it was just hilarious coincidence. And that's sort of why I wanted to include it in here, because this was, again, proof that if you have to go out and you have to find people in order to join your Fediment, well, it's a hard place to be, right? It's a really hard place to be. And so I'm going to pull up what it looks like, and you guys can just roast me if you don't like my app. But this is what it looks like. So as you can see, it's simple. I hope it's simple. How do you guys do you think it's simple, right? So when you see the home screen, you literally have a couple options to do, which is all you want, right? You can send money, you can receive money, and then you have some tabs at the bottom to navigate to different pages. And so if you want to send money to a contact, well, here's your contact page. And you can have a couple different contacts. Well, you can have as many contacts as you want, but you can pin contacts if you really like them and you want to send money to them, or you can just keep them in a list form if that's better for you. When you expand, you can see, okay, well, there's our transaction history of what we've done. And what do I want to do? Okay, well, I want to send or request money to them. So if you want to request money, well, you just request them some money, right? And I can see my payment request has been sent. And that's as simple. So my phone, I don't think, well, you won't be able to see. But my phone, I just got a notification from Blitz Wallet that says someone just requested me money. So then I would go into my phone and all I would do is hit pay on my side. And that's simple. No invoices were exchanged. No conversation needed to be had of, okay, how much money do I need to send you? All it was is my friend requested me $20 for XYZ reason. And that's as simple as it needs to be. You can also obviously customize a contact and add a photo if you want.
What's your username?
This would be
Blitz Creator?
This would be Test S, John Handler. No, Blitz Creator is my phone one. This is the simulator. But you could send it to my phone if you want to, and I could show them. So that's contacts. This is the peanut butter and jelly of my app. This is what I'm so passionate about, because I hope, as you can see, there are no barriers now to what you can do if you want to send to your friend. All you do is you add their contact by searching it, and that's it. And another cool thing is, I just remembered, you can also add LNURL addresses. So you can basically add, let's say, joe@strike.com or whatever as a contact, and then you can send money to their LNURL address. However, they can't send money back. It would just only be able to add their sort of ID into this user interface, and then you could just send to them. So it would look like this. So you can't request money because they're now within Blitz, but you can still send them money and it still looks the same. So if you want to add an LNURL, you can. Now with the store, here are your optionalities, right? As I talked about, you have the shop, you have the AI, and that kind of stuff. So in the United States, here are all the options that you can do. There's, I think, 1,000 or something of them. That obviously changes per your location. The Bitcoin company doesn't have gift cards everywhere. And then if you wanted to buy one, you would just view, put in the amount of money, and then you would purchase it. And then it would come up with an invoice. And then from there, you just slide to confirm. So I don't have money in here, but if you wanted to buy this, you would just slide, and then you would be able to buy that gift card, and then it would send that to the email address that you entered in on the page. And then with AI, well, you can interact with them. So we'll just do, what is quantum computing, like I'm 10. And now we all know how quantum computing works because it'll explain it to us like it's 10. Let's see. This is probably going to be like a gigantic paragraph. So now you also know how quantum computing works. So that's kind of cool. And you can save. So
Did it just charge you?
yes, it did. So you get charged per search, and it's only charges for the amount of what they call tokens that you use. So since that paragraph was longer, that consumed more tokens, so it charged you more money. But yeah, and then when you want to go back, you could just go back and see. Now you can see your search. So what you can see here though is since that's saved, that is the data that would be saved within the database. So that's sort of all the information. However, all this information is encrypted by your private key. So even in the database, nothing's really there. It's just a bunch of incoherent strings because you would have to decrypt it on your device only. And then here you can change the model if you want, but that's just AI. And then obviously the SMS and VPNs you can buy there. So again, for me, the whole thing with this is simplicity and allowing people to start actively using Bitcoin, right? Because when I go to the store right now, well, now I have two options. I can either use my credit card or I can buy a gift card and then just buy the same amount of Bitcoin. And to me, using Bitcoin is super cool. So obviously I'm just gonna buy the gift card and use Bitcoin. Yeah, anybody have any questions, I guess? Oh, a couple questions. All right. Yeah, who wants to go? Oh, like so if something costs 5,000 sats, you can do like 4 1,000 or 5 1,000 sats. So no, that's not an option. That would maybe get sticky because technically I'm just the middleman between. So yeah, I don't know. I mean I could look into that maybe. I don't know. But no, it's a good question. That's a good question.
I just say I love it. It's very pragmatic.
Thank you.
It's great stuff. I've never seen something like so simple, but it's great. And I was wondering for your custodial side mode.
Yeah.
I see that you didn't mention you don't use at all Lightning services.
LSPs? Yes. So there is a built-in LSP within the app that you use. Yes.
Another question is, have you thought about the collaborative, like having a family, like my mom, and I don't want to give them 12 words to memorize.
Yeah. So with the SDK, actually, you can download and use the same seed on multiple different devices. So if you trust your parents that they're not going to take all your money, right? You guys could technically use the same account. So you would know the seeds, but then you could just download the wallet on their phone, restore the account on their phone, and then they could use the money within that wallet, and they wouldn't have to know the seed because you would just be the one who would know it. Yeah, I have definitely thought about because now that USDT is on Liquid, there is the opportunity to possibly add USDT into the wallet. So it's definitely a thing that I'm thinking about, and I'm with people who know a lot about it. So I've definitely been talking to them about how that could possibly be implemented into the wallet because that is something that I'm aware of, and I do want to try and add. It's on my note sheet of what should be added to Blitz Wallet.
Most technical people that I know, I mentioned that why they can handle it, but the non-technical people, they have a hard pump.
Yeah. And USDT is good because it just reduces the volatility of what they're trying to do.
Absolutely, savings that they need that.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you get USDB working, this will be the first choice that I'll be showing.
Yeah, well, that's great feedback, and I will definitely try and work on that then. Yes.
What talent sets me is because all swaps is the 1,000 cents amount.
Yes, because Build Swaps has a 1,000 sat minimum amount, and when you're requesting, because you don't know the other person and where their balance is, you have to implement that 1,000 sat. Because if I request you like 500 and you're not using Liquid, all your balance is in Lightning, you wouldn't be able to make that swap. And so with the context, you do have to have that minimum 1,000 sat request limit. But when you're actually just sending to a Liquid address, I think it's like 546 or something. If they have a Lightning channel, they can. Or if they have like a balance in Ecash, they could, if they're using that sort of model. But if they just have a Liquid balance, they would not be able to. No.
Yeah, you always work. What about Ultra Comedy for permanent views?
Sorry.
Permanent always
12. Why I didn't use that or what? Like, well, in the SDK, you can send to it. But again, with Bolt 12, you have to be online. So my whole thing was taking that online requirement completely off the table so that I know for a fact 100% that if money is sent to that liquid address, that user is getting it. It doesn't matter. The LSP? Oh, the watchtower? Well, that's the federation. That's in the liquid network. If you're trying to peg out. The watchmen, do you mean? Who are watching the beggar?
And then like signing is the iOS
Which
it's a way to get
I don't understand. What's the witch tower?
Watchtower. They only help you when a lightning channel is force closed and you're not online to like enforce penalties.
I noticed now, right now, the Ecash option is like an opt-in experimental mode.
Yes.
So
It will never not be it will never be enabled, and I'm never taking it out of experimental. Because for me, again, I don't really want to be onboarding people to a custodial experience, especially since the funds could be taken. And so if you see experimental, as a user, you might be like a little bit more, okay, well, what is this? Let me look this up on the internet to understand a little bit more about it. Because I don't want to really be pushing people into a custodial solution, especially because it's a new technology too. Like you could get your funds taken.
because if you could somehow either integrate Ecash or just be a fully custodial lightning wallet, provide that, to say you could onboard people with less than 1,000 cents, right? Just have them.
Well, they can opt into it and they can use it. But it's opt-in user choice. Again, remember, user choice, huge thing, right? If the user wants to do it, they can do it. I provided the feature, but they should be the ones doing it. I'm not the ones telling them what to do by enabling that feature. Any more? That's it. Cool. Okay. Well, I'll be back. I'm going to be building a liquid wallet with you guys. I don't know, later this afternoon after lunch. So you'll get to hear my beautiful voice more this afternoon. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to my presentation. And I hope that you guys enjoyed that.
We have some Jade Pluses here, and we want to use them later on in the day for one of Blake's sessions. Unfortunately, we don't. These are prototype Jades, right? So they may be a bit wonky, but that's why we're giving them to you for free. Unfortunately, we don't have one for everyone. So I would like you all to pair up with a partner, and then we'll give you a Jade to share, and you can figure out who takes the Jade, who doesn't. So that's the best we can do. Sorry, but yeah, you can play around with the Jade. We're going to have it communicate with the React Native Liquid wallet that you make on Liquid Testnet. So yeah, should be cool. But I'll just go around and give one for each pair. So maybe, I don't know if you have a close friend, a brother, someone you work with on your team, that would make sense to pair up.